Are you interested in becoming a permanent part of the channel or having a direct impact on the type of content that I create? Well, now you can check out the Alliteration Gaming Patreon. Throughout it, you're going to find a handful of different tiers that can include special perks like shoutouts on the supporter card at the beginning of all my videos, access to the private channel in my Discord, and the ability to watch all of my content on Patreon a couple weeks early and totally ad-free. On top of that, the different video tiers will let you commission videos directly from me. We can build a deck together, you can send me some gameplay to commentate, or even select a character for me to spotlight. You can also now join the Alliteration Nation by becoming a channel member on YouTube. Pledging your subscription here is going to grant you a same spot on that supporter card and access to that same Discord channel, as well as hook you up with a member's badge that levels up and access to emotes when I stream on YouTube. I'm going to have the Patreon link down below to check out, and the Discord should you want to join that. And if you want to become a channel member, the join button is what you want to hit. If you end up supporting my work in any way, thank you so much. I'm incredibly grateful, and I can't wait to provide you with more top-notch content at my trademark top speed. Now, let's get on to the video. Good evening, my dear viewers, and welcome to another Alliteration gaming video. My name's Levi, and it is Wednesday, so it is time for those wealthy aspirations. For those of you not in the know, it's our weekly Market Watch series, where I'm going to go over TCG players' whole secondary market for the My Hero card game, and just pick out a handful of select cards that I think are very interesting to talk about right now for a myriad of reasons. So if you want to catch the series every week, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can stay tuned for all of my uploads. That being said, you guys are probably getting a little bit of like a late night / evening wealthy aspirations here, because I just finished sleeping basically all day because my flight for the Orlando regional is at like 3 a.m. so I wanted to make sure that I could stay up for it. So I apologize for the bit of the late upload today, but that being said, let's get right into it. First off, we're going to start off with some set 4 cards, guys. Set 4 continuing to do some very interesting things in the market and actually hold some really reasonable value, especially in these ultra rares. We've been talking about Vial season almost like every single week now. If you don't know, it's still going crazy. But I do have some new ones to talk about here, and that's going to be Dual Needle Lunge. Both the XR and the regular Ultra Rare, they're both completely gone. You know, like the South Park meme, and it's gone? They're gone, man. You know, the XR has like always been pretty all over the place. Like a bunch of them got posted for super duper cheap back when the set first came out, and then they basically just never got touched since then. And then the Ultra Rare has been flying between like 10 to 15 bucks for a pretty long time now, and it looks like it's finally starting to catch up to it. I mean, this has just slowly been more realized that this is like one of the most versatile Ultra Rares in the whole set. Pretty much every deck on any of these symbols will at least consider playing this card just because of how like generically good it is. It's just very strong. Whether or not your deck cares about these keywords or cares about other keywords, this is just a good card to play. Also, it's really favored by a lot of the Water Sero 2 decks that people are really starting to pick up. So that might also be not like a huge reason, but there's another little nudge to why it's starting to go the way of the Dodo so much lately. So keep an eye on this one. I think anything like 12 bucks or under, it's a really good price for this card, because there's honestly no reason why this also might one day see those like Vial season level prices. Another one of the ultra rares that people are really starting to come onto in this set is Double Trouble. The regular has found its way all the way up to like 10 bucks now, and there's really not a ton of them left at that price either. It's been selling for like anywhere between 2 and 5 bucks quite a bit in the past, so this is a pretty significant jump for it, and it could end up kind of solidifying itself as like a $10-15 ultra rare, which for set 4 to have like 3 of those with like, you know, Dual Needle and Vial season is very impressive to have a bunch of them breaking that range. Compared to the last few sets anyway, you know, we just haven't seen like ultra rares hold that level of value, so it is really surprising. At the same time though, this is a very good card. Even if you're not twice, just an Echo with stun 1 and a card filter is just really good, and a lot of decks are starting to pick up on that. For context, the XR sold around like that same $10 range for a really long time, but those have kind of all dried up at this point, and I would expect to see it come back a little more expensive. Now we're going to enter a little bit of set 3 territory with some kind of like random buyouts here. First thing is focused attack XRs do not exist. Interestingly enough, I'm not sure what's cooking. I don't know what's cooking, but yesterday the last 3 got bought up around the $10 range, and now they've come back with a vengeance. I don't know if there's anything super spicy going on here. I don't know if there's anything I'm not privy to. I mean, the card is solid. Decks built around it are solid. I don't know if people really think that Faith Shield is going to get banned or something. This is still a bit of a meme card, but it is really funny to see it enter this crazy price range, but I don't think it actually means anything. Another one in a very similar vein Vayne. We've talked about it a couple times before, but Compression Sphere is pretty much gone again. You know, it kind of found its way back into the market around like, you know, $10 ish. Then a bunch of them sold for $5, and then now they're back to just being non-existent. So again, I'm sure we'll see some more people put more of these into the market very soon. But it just is funny that this just keeps getting bought out at those really cheap prices. I mean, the card is okay. The card is okay. You know, for some of these symbols, it is like some primary momentum hate, so I can kind of understand it. But it's funnier than anything. Now, one that makes a little bit more sense here is Student of the Art XRs do not exist anymore. This was always one of the super duper cheapest XRs in the world, because if you really cared about blinging out your deck, you probably just got the RLE version. But we definitely have a lot more Ojiro players than we did, you know, a couple months ago. So it makes sense that this one, you know, slowly started getting bought up, and now they just don't really exist anymore. I'm sure once people see this, you know, they'll be sitting on some, they'll relist them for like $5 or something and make a nice little profit on these guys. There's also a solid chance that very soon this card is either banned or the character that it singularly supports is extremely eroded, so we'll just have to see how that plays out. Another one on the rise here is Tentacle Strike XRs do not exist. Remember how I talked about the Sero 2 water decks that people are playing, and that's why Dual Needle Lunge is getting bought out a little bit? This is of the same vein, guys. Also, people really like playing Innsmouth. That deck is like actually quite real. That deck is actually very solid, and people like it. People like it is probably the bigger factor there. So the fact that this is, you know, this is like a star player in both of those decks, it makes sense that that we're starting to see this one dry up, pun intended. But I'm sure we'll see some more come into the market. I don't think this is, you know, one with a whole ton of out of stock staying power, but it is noteworthy that this might not be like a $1 XR anymore. We talked a lot about Double Trouble, but now we got to go to the other double guys, and that's Double Jab Pummel. Double Jab Pummel is, I mean, just a very good card. Obviously, it's been one of the biggest things in Ojiro for a really long time now, and it's not necessarily like doing anything crazy yet. Like, there's still a bunch left for like the $10 range, and obviously people could post more at any point in time, but it is, you know, worth noting that it's been selling quite a bit lately. I think it's important to note that if Ojiro does get hit on that list in any way, it's very possible that, you know, like Jiro and Tokoyami come back with a vengeance, and a lot of people will seek to pick those decks up instead, wanting to stay on top of playing like the, you know, quote-unquote best deck, right? So I think it's worth keeping an eye on a lot of these cards. You know, I would keep an eye on a lot of, like, you know, I mean, we've already seen Dark Shadow Ruin doing some crazy stuff in the last few weeks. Twisting Azure Inferno, always very expensive. This is certainly much more of a Jiro card, but you definitely can play it in Tokoyami. You definitely can play it in like the Dabi 2 builds, the Chaos builds. You know, this card's got a lot going on. I think it's worth keeping an eye on, right? You know, we talked about Meteor a couple weeks ago. We talked about Texas a couple weeks ago. I think this might just be another one to keep an eye on, especially since the very similarly priced XR is very much drying up. There's only a solid handful of them left, you know, in this like $15 range. So again, just something that might be worth keeping an eye on. But speaking of the one hitting the market right now, Back Alley Haymaker is now like a $6 rare, which is kind of insane. We basically saw the same thing happen with One with Nature last week, I believe. And if you look at the XR is, you know, pretty much going for that range already. It's kind of what it's always going for, around that like $8 range. But the normal ones are now entering, again, some of the highest. Look at the chart here. It's really funny to look at. Really funny to see a rare be this much, but once again, it does make sense. One of the most registered cards in the entirety of the whole game. Ojiro is such an insane deck right now. You know, we looked at, you know, last week we looked at Texas Smash, we looked at Rapid Punches, we looked at, you know, basically all of like those like Earth Punch deck staples. You know, Ojiro 2 plays that deck, but any character can play that deck. We looked at like all of those staples, and, you know, we saw the Texases, you know, the Texas, I'll just say Texas Smashes because it's easier. I keep running into this note here. But then we saw the Texas Smashes get, like, you know, kind of attacked, not necessarily bought out, but certainly rising up, and the Rapid Punches get completely destroyed when it comes to the secondary market. You know, we saw One with Nature become, you know, a $6-7 rare. We're seeing the same thing with Back Alley Haymaker now, and I think until this whole like Earth deck, you know, as a whole gets hit in some way, we're going to see these prices continue to go crazy, especially as, you know, people are probably scrounging up these cards, realizing, yeah, Ojiro is not going to get banned before the RLEs weekend, so it's still like, you know, the optimal choice to play when it comes to Florida. So these are all just still cards you have to keep a massive eye on, and if you have a bunch of, you know, Back Alleys and One with Nature sitting in your rare box, time to dig them out, you know, make a nice little $3 profit on those bad boys. Next up is another really funny buyout is the Capture Evildoers from Gen Con. This one's kind of been fighting for something like this for a good while now. It's, you know, pretty much always been like 12 to 15 bucks. It's never really gotten crazy on us, but they have gone the way of the dodo. Now we have one singular one left on the market for an absolute meme price by the looks of it. I mean, Capture Evildoers is a very important card in the meta right now. You know, everyone's been preaching the momentum hate. I don't think people have been playing it nearly as much as they've been preaching it, but this is still a really important card to pack on all three of these symbols. You know, the Dobby decks like to play this card a lot, and at the end of the day, it always has that, like, you know, the amount of these that exist, more will never exist, right? There is like a finite amount of them. You know, more are not entering the market. It is all up to a matter of, are people going to dig these out of their collections and post them onto the TCG player? So you always just kind of have that alt art limited time promo tax to think about, which makes just all of these always worth keeping an eye on. And the last thing I want to talk to you guys about today is learning the standards. It's really funny, there's no image on it from TCG Player, but this is the Kirishima Tetsu Fourth Kind Foundation from the Quirk packs for Crimson Rampage. This is a card that has been seen a ton of play in the Ojiro decks. It's pretty much been rivaled as the best way to win the mirror match for Ojiro. It's how you slow down the Jiros and the Tokoyamis. You know, it's how you stop them in their tracks and say, hey, no. It's time to stop attacking. Pass back into me. We've seen all of them playing that. We've seen a lot of the Ojiros maining two, siding the other two. Some of them only side it, some of them main all four, like Madmen. Regardless of how you play it, it's in every single one of these Earth Ojiro decks, and it's a big reason to play those symbols right now. Again, it's another one of those Earth cards that you kind of just have to keep an eye on right now. It's just one that I think, because like we just realize, you know, we all hold set 2 as like a no value set in our heads, that we forget that, you know, while there are so many of these cards in existence, because, you know, set 2 is so hard to move, at the same time, people aren't like cracking open new boxes. You know, they aren't opening new Quirk packs. They aren't you know, breaking that plastic seal anymore. So for a card like Learning the Standards to enter this price point, as it seems so much more play now than it ever has, you know, as a very pivotal card of the, you know, best deck in the format, yeah, it just makes a ton of sense. And if you're like not Ojiro, if you're on any of these three symbols, you're probably still playing this card, because again, it's still such a good counter to those big meta aggro decks. And so guys, that is going to wrap up this week's Wealthy Aspirations. If you enjoyed the video and or learned anything from it, I would appreciate some positive feedback down below. And of course, hit the subscribe button if you want to see this series every week and all of my other content. And if you want to support the channel in even more extreme ways, you can hit the join button and become a channel member, or check out my Patreon for all of my video commission tiers. That being said, I appreciate you just making it to the end of this video. That's all the time I have for today. I've got to start packing so I can get on a plane to Kissimmee, Florida, and see you guys for this regional license exam. I cannot wait. I hope to see everyone there this weekend, and I hope to see you in the next upload as well.